Okay, so the other day I posted a video doing commentary on Trisha's video where she's like, oh, there was a new episode of Frenemies that we filmed, but we're not going to post it. Or Ethan doesn't want to post it. And it really just turned out, for whatever reason, like Trisha just showed up, and then I guess they did an episode, but it doesn't seem like they did it. She exposed herself. She like said something in the comments, or excuse me, she was talking so much. She was like, yeah, I asked Ethan. Ethan's like, yeah, we're not doing it. And then she's like, well, I'm here. She exposed herself, as she always does. Anyway, the reason Ethan hasn't responded, to my knowledge, I'm assuming it has something to do with Hila, pregnant, taking a break for a couple weeks, doesn't want to get dragged into family drama. Makes perfect sense as to why they wouldn't respond whatsoever. But people were saying like, oh, Trisha came on this podcast. Now, I know it's a long podcast. It's fucking like 2 hours long. Holy moly. But it's, thank God, it's timestamped. So, you know, good for them for timestamping it. Where Trisha was on this all-girls podcast, because, you know, Trisha is a girl, right? I know she says she's trans. I'm affirming of trans people except for Trisha, because I think that she's a bullshit artist in general. So, you know, that's just my cynical attitude, nature, whatever here. Okay? She's full of shit constantly. Anyway, let's get out of that. So there's timestamped with specific aspects here where it's like the Frenemies drama with Ethan Klein. Afterwards, it says Trisha discusses her struggles with mental health, and then it says, would you go back to Frenemies? So we're going to watch that. It doesn't really, from 48 minutes to, it's only a little bit. So we're going to go watch that at a little bit increased speed. Excuse me. Very unprofessional. Let's do this. And to those of you who are like, Papa God, how could you say she's not trans? You're invalidating, blah, 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 blah. She said she was trans a while ago, and then she was like, oops, sorry. And then she came back and said it again after she was able to basically educate herself on what it, like, on the best way to mimic being trans. That's why, you know, yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, I have a question. I've been following. I've watched all your stuff always. I've been up to date with all the like drama.
Okay.
What's
drama? I know.
Like behind the scenes, what's happening with you and Hila, because she's your sister-in-law, right?
Yeah.
And you're like kind of seem to be in like this public fight with Ethan, but
Yeah.
are behind the scenes like, is everything okay? Are you not worried long term? Because like you know you guys are going to be your family.
Yeah, it's such a messy thing. I should note that I was like gonna come on here even before Frenemies ended, because we had this booked like before, and then Frenemies ended, and I was like, oh, and hopefully you guys don't hate having me on, because I did one interview since post Frenemies and got so much hate. They're like, we hate Trisha, so there's a big hate campaign right now.
Don't worry about it. We don't believe in that.
Okay,
We don't
we're
care.
fine.
Okay.
In our locus of control.
Yeah. No, I've always been fine with her. Actually, she's always been really nice. I have no issues with Hila. It's like literally was between me and Ethan, but Ethan like drags like a lot of people, and obviously it's his wife, so obviously.
We already started. It's just between me and Ethan, but Ethan drags a lot of people into it. Come on. Do you see this disparaging language here? This is fucking insane. Also, Hila very clearly does not like Trisha. I feel like Hila likes Trisha less than Ethan. Like, that's just the vibe I get. It seems like Ethan was the one who wanted to bring her onto Frenemies and, like, try to, like, you know, make her public opinion of her better and whatnot. Hila seems to not like her. I would not like her either, because, again, she called her a bitch. Trisha called Hila a bitch and a cunt and said she was a bad mom. So I feel like I wouldn't like you at all. It's just weird. It feels like she's almost trying to, and it's not going to work because like Hila's not an idiot. Ethan kind of, but Hila no. It's like she's trying to like drive a wedge and be like, oh, I love Hila, and Ethan is the one dragging her into it, as if Hila's going to look at that and go, yeah, you know what? That's how I've been feeling. Like, what the fuck?
But like personally, like, you know, we haven't talked or anything, but like I'm totally, like, we've never had an issue. I think it's more because I'm.
Yes, you have. What do you mean you've never had an issue? She may never have expressed an issue with you because she like keeps shit to herself. But like you've created issues with her. We literally just said what she did.
Like, Ethan and I'm like totally over it now. I mean,
No,
I
you're
don't know,
not.
but
Have you guys talk?
No, we're like
Really?
Yeah.
Did you guys during that time that things were going down like consider like you know how they have those work therapists
Oh, like a
Yeah.
couples therapist, but for
for the workplace and
Yeah.
stuff?
Why would they do that?
I would go, really?
Why would he do that? Why would he go to a therapist with somebody who's like a net negative on his life? Like it's not his responsibility to work on her mental health. She needs to seek like whatever mental health advocacy. It's not his fucking issue. So like why are you gonna do a workplace therapist for what? For somebody who's getting way too much money that does absolutely nothing other than like have a meltdown once a month and like, you know, basically causes massive amounts of family stress.
With who?
Donut. The dog likes Tay better.
No, I was on a show where I was co-starring with my best friend at the time, and like it was really a lot. Like we were doing so much, and so we like saw a therapist for a few sessions, and it really helped us.
Really?
Yeah.
I think
End
that
the show.
help. Yeah,
Peacefully.
Yeah.
I don't know these people. I'm going to assume that their issues were much on a smaller scale, and they were being much better faith with each other. There was just some kind of misunderstanding. Whereas Trisha intentionally goes out of her way to manipulate, bitch, cry, and moan when she feels like she's being, she feels like she's getting a bad rap, even though she very clearly isn't. And then when the public opinion doesn't align with her absolutely fucking warped perspective, she just lashes out like a dog in a cage.
The network ended the show.
But that is a really tricky thing and a really big gamble to work with family or work with really like close friends.
But also the show was called Frenemies, so
not
you knew there was
really
like,
that
Of
much.
course, yeah, and that's what everyone was saying too. They're like, well, that is the show, and it's like, I always thought that was the show too, but then, it's fine. It is what it is.
Wait. You hear what she said? I thought that was the show too. So what's the implication here? That you thought it was the show, so you thought it was okay to be a bitch? I don't understand.
But like, yeah, I always thought that too. I feel like if it was like a reality show, like the drama helps it.
Yeah.
But
Is she saying that she made drama intentionally to boost ratings? Like, what's the implication here? I feel like she's just talking and using whatever. Oh, somebody gives her like an idea of like, oh yeah, see, I thought that it was Frenemies, so I thought this was okay. She never thought that. But now someone's saying it, so it's like, oh, that makes sense. But then if you go back and you rewatch everything that was going on and everything that's unfolding, that makes absolutely no fucking sense.
I think there was just like a point of just it's not working anymore.
Yeah.
And so they're very like no drama, and I'm very drama unintentionally, but
They're very no drama. What?
I understand your point of view and your side of
Thank you.
Well, then you're kind of an idiot.
From what I understand, whatever. But I'm curious. Do Moses and Hila, like, are they like back channeling, like, while you and Ethan are fighting? Are they like, because they're brother and sister, like everything's okay? Like,
yeah, I know. I guess that was my issue.
She goes through Moses' phone because they have trust issues, doesn't she? And then she hits him.
Because Ethan's like, Hila's family is so mad at him. We talked to his mom this morning, and she goes, "I love Trish. Like, tell her I love her." And like, his brother's coming out to stay with us. Like, we're all cool. Like the family.
I very highly doubt that Ethan is doesn't understand the way that that everything works. Like, it's so weird to me that she's promoting this narrative that, like, Ethan's a liar. Do you not see it? Ethan said that the family doesn't like Trish or doesn't. Yeah, they have a very conservative family. You could tell Hila's more conservative. They have a more conservative family, and they don't like this shit. Now, they might say, like, yeah, we like Trisha. She's all right, because they understand her now. She's like a fucking, she's like a dog. Basically, like, this doesn't understand how. Well, she does understand, but doesn't know how to fucking have any. I don't know. Like, we all think that she has no ability to have her own ability to control herself. She has no agency over herself. So people empathize or sympathize with her because they think that she's like a puppy, but she really is a much more like methodical, shitty person. Where you could see it here on the reframing once again. This is what Trisha does. Controversy happens. A normal person moves on from controversy as soon as they feel like they can, if that makes sense. Something will happen, they'll talk about it, and they'll be like, okay, time to stop talking about it and time to move on. Trisha beats the dead horse because every time she talks about it over and over again, she retells it from a new perspective that champions her perspective over anybody else's. And people fall for it because this drama is like over a month old. So the facts start to get distorted once you leave the situation. People like forget things, and nobody's going to go back and watch like fucking 5 hours of content to re-educate themselves on it. So Trisha just says a thing, always saying something different, always saying something new, always saying something disparaging towards Ethan. Even that video that she talked about how there was one more episode of Frenemies left. What did she keep saying? Ethan apologized and he won't release it because he's basically a coward that doesn't want to take any accountability. Do you see like the really shitty things that she's saying?
Again, they like him and Hila probably talk and stuff like that, but he doesn't like tell me as much or whatever. But Ethan's like dragged his mom into it and all this stuff like that. So it's becoming more of a family issue than it had to be, in my opinion, because it really was like I had this issue with Ethan, and
but let's not forget that she talked about how Ethan was an asshole and just like barged in on the Disney trip, and about like this horrible thing where he asked about the candle, thing. Where Ethan was like, yeah, I fucked up on that. That's probably where he apologized in the video. Like, yeah, I overstepped. That was ignorant of me. Instant apology. Meanwhile, we still haven't gotten a genuine apology after like over a month from Trisha.
Yeah, okay, it also involves you, because that's your wife, but then like involving the family in Israel and this, because they're like, we're cool, we thought it was done as of this morning, like we thought everything, whatever.
As of this morning, yeah, because it's been over a fucking month. Of course, now they would, but you're telling it as if like now is the way that everything was working a month ago. You don't. What was their opinion of you back then? Everybody was probably not on your side because you're fucking an asshole.
So, yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard from either of them. Like, hopefully, I mean, we have a wedding, and so hopefully, and we did family activities before, so hopefully.
Yeah, and like you and Moses want to start a family, and they obviously have kids. It's like, you guys are going to be a family regardless.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a fucking asshole here. I'm really not. I remember Trisha saying something, and I know this is going to be really mean, and you can hate me if you want. I know Trisha said something about how I think she had syphilis to a point where like it made it really almost impossible for her to have kids, and like that's horrible. But I don't think that Trisha's a person that should have kids. I think that she's a real asshole piece of shit. If she has them, good luck to her and all that. But like, I don't think it's a good idea if she makes babies and raises a child, because I don't think that she will be a fit mother. That's just my opinion. So
yeah,
so
right.
There's
and
going to be babies involved.
Yeah, I feel like time is so fresh and stuff, but you're so like right now.
And I know it's a terrible thing to say, but like I believe it. I just believe it.
A lot of like whatever.
Well,
trying to...
it's not different from any other family drama, right? Like these things happen in our own families. Yours is just heightened because it's in the public eye, and so it's like that's when it gets a little bit.
And she made a lot of videos,
right? Which I deleted.
She heightened it.
Yeah, I deleted all of them because I really am like, okay, let me just disengage and not do this because like going back and forth, like obviously we just don't see eye to eye. So just
look at this is altruistic perspective. I've deleted my videos. You had like 6 times as many videos than Ethan did. And the only reason he had to make his is to respond to your fucking psychotic shit. So you notice, again, retelling of the story. She's the altruistic figure. There was so much back and forth. I had to just stop. There was like 6 times as many videos from you than from Ethan. You created this fucking situation, and now you're trying to downplay it as if you aren't like the fucking person who created the hysteria. You left of your own volition. You were being an asshole to the staff, and they were like, hey, we don't want to hang out with you for a day. That's literally what happened. And then what happened? She's like, oh, I'm quitting Frenemies. It's not the workplace is so toxic, obviously, blah, 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 and shut a fucking meltdown because people wanted to just not hang out with Trisha for a fucking day.
Like a lot.
Yeah.
So I just kind of pulled the plug on that. But like when you were saying like we started the show and it's hard to work with family, like I think at the time me and Moses were like just started officially dating for like a month. So I think in his head, like everyone else is like, oh, this is like not gonna last. But everyone said, like even when me and Moses dating, they like Ethan.
I honestly feel like the only reason it's lasted is like this weird like phenomenon where everybody was like fighting against them. So they're like, we're gonna prove you wrong and we're gonna make it work. Those relationships are always the worst relationships that don't last. If your whole, I'm not kidding. It seems like the whole foundation for their relationship is, hey, nobody wants us to succeed. That's it. I mean, come on.
Or they.
When they did their Q&A, which Trisha said was so lazy when it came to H3, or the Frenemies podcast, but she did it with Moses. When they did their Q&A, literally one of the questions was, what do you like about the other person? And Moses didn't answer. The only question he didn't answer. I find that to be oddly convenient.
He told Moses, like, don't date Trisha, it's going to end in disaster. So I don't know why he decided to start a show with me if he thought our relationship would end in a disaster. But
it is. You guys are, unfortunately, magic together.
Me and I know, it's really sad. It's really sad. I'm very sad about it.
My mom, she doesn't watch anything. She doesn't watch my own podcast. She watches Frenemies. Yeah.
Well, they probably don't talk about her on
yesterday,
there.
darling, you have Trisha tomorrow. Yeah, and I'm like, oh my God, Ma, watch my shit. Subscribe to mine.
You have too. You're like, I want all these podcasts. Does your mom talk like that? Does she have an accent?
Yeah, she's a really thick accent.
Love accents. I love accents. That's so cool.
But she's in love with you.
Wait, keep going about how like start appropriating like whatever. I mean, whatever Asian culture that person belongs to, just like you do with like Jewish shit. Like, why don't you just start doing that? I love accents, and I like to be really disparaging towards Jewish people, or really like anybody that's like around me. Like if she was dating somebody like a Korean guy, she would probably, I love Korean culture. Trisha's fucking, I think, she's definitely very like warped in that perspective where like she overly identifies with the people that are around her. I think that's why, I think the BPD is what she has. Probably the only, like that legitimately is what she probably has. And then she takes it, she absorbs it, and then she like does it in a way that's like almost a caricature of that culture to a point of like where she diminishes that culture.
Oh, is she here? Is she here in
no,
LA?
She's not.
Oh, you should bring
she
her
should be upstairs cleaning, but
that'd be so fun. You should have your mom on.
I don't want to. I mean, yeah, I don't want to like make you feel bad about it because I think like that
I
just
do.
happens. But do you feel like
I do?
Because I have seen you guys have quit before. Do you feel like this quit is gonna stick, or is there any chance?
Yes, hopefully.
For me,
if Ethan has any self-respect,
I quit the show like 3 times, and then we brought Dr. Drew back, and it was fine. So for me, in my head, when I say I quit something,
they brought back Dr. Drew, and it was very clear that Dr. Drew was on Trisha's side, I almost guarantee you that like Ethan paid Dr. Drew to be like nicer to Trisha so that she feels better about herself, because they do that. Dr. Drew just takes money and gives whatever. Same thing with like polygraph tests. They'll give you whatever answer you want.
Like, and this is it's a toxic pattern, so I'm not saying it's okay, but every time I quit, or if I just, I don't know what this anymore was, but I'd always be like, I want to break up with you, and then he just like, in an hour, I'm like totally fine.
I do that too.
Right, okay, so you get it. So that's how I was pissed after our argument, but then literally an hour later, he's like, hey, we paid $5,000 for this.
It doesn't make any sense. You quit.
Great dream tomorrow. Do you want to do it? I'm like, obviously, yes. So I was like down to film the next day.
And then you quit because the people didn't want to do it with you.
And then he texted me, I was like, the crew is really mad at you.
Right, and that made you feel like alienated.
Yeah, so then I was like,
yeah, because you alienated the whole crew. Why is her perspective being championed here? Why is this another campaign to make her look good?
Oh, well, then I'm just like quitting, and I did my I quit video, and then it turned into a snowball into his thing, because then he did a video about.
Do you feel as though when you
did like 5 videos and then he did a video? Don't act like it was video to video to video. It was like 5-1, 5-1.
A video out like that you can't. You have to double down. Like, do you ever feel that way where you're like you impulsively?
Yeah, that is the embodiment of Trisha. She does a dumb wrong thing, and then she doubles down on it.
Feel so rageful.
Yeah.
And then even though you're not necessarily feeling like you want to like follow through with the quitting, but now it's out there, so you have to double down on that decision.
Yeah,
You're 30-something years old. You should have learned by now that, like, as an adult, when you make a decision, it's often reinforced by those around you. If you make a decision to quit your job's not going to be like, oh, you want to go? Well, that was just you having a bad day. Okay, come on back. Like, this is the fucking real world. All right, you're not 17 anymore where you can do something stupid and impulsive and just walk back on it. Like, you're a fucking grown woman. You don't, like, I don't understand. What is this podcast? What are these perspectives? Like, yes, of course you have to double down on decisions that you make. What the fuck? Did any of these people work a real job? I'm very confused. I just feel like this is too, like, in Trisha's favor for how objectively wrong she is in this situation.
Doing that, like, tenfold.
And then, yeah, she was milking it for views because she wanted money. And the only reason people liked her was because Ethan basically ran a campaign to make her look better.
Doubling down. You know what I mean? And then there is a point of, like, almost like no return, right? Like, I felt, in my opinion, that I was being, like, respectful, like, because there was a time when I, like, came for Eli when she wasn't even involved. That was 6 months ago. And I thought we moved past, and then he threw it in my.
You called her a cunt and a bitch and never apologized for it. What do you mean he threw it in your face? I thought I was being respectful. Now let me go back to the time where I called Ela a cunt and a bitch and that she was a terrible mother. And I thought we moved past that, even though both of them later admitted that she never even addressed it. And it was one of the things that Ethan had mentioned in his response to her because he was still frustrated. And Ela was still frustrated. I'm so confused.
My face again this past time, and it was like so
this podcast is run by Bobby Lee's wife, so he doesn't do anything else. That makes sense to me.
Ugly and so awful, and it was just all on my end, not Hila's side. So this time I was like, I didn't name call, which is like a huge improvement for me. Usually I like
you not name calling doesn't rectify the fucking shitty things you did in the past.
When I'm in a fight, I like name call. I want to like, I'm the meanest. So I thought this time I like handled myself well, but for some reason this was like the biggest one that everyone's hanging on to, and like we hate Trisha now. So it's
well, I could tell that the way you handled the fight that they aired on the show, it's like you clearly were trying like a new coping mechanism of just like, I'm gonna, like, you were like, let's end it. Like, you're powering down, like, let me walk away from the situation, which, like, is the kind of the right move, right?
I'm different. I come from a very...
That's not what happened at all. There's a difference between respectfully saying, listen, we have two very different perspectives on the situation. Let's just walk away clean. I think that this is a toxic environment. That's walking away from the situation. There's a difference between that and like having a situation where you're continuously talking about it in a disparaging way towards Ethan to a point where he had to respond. It's not like she just walked away and said, listen, like, this is too much. I don't think that we're vibing. That's fine. That's respectable. You dragged this on for weeks, and every single time you do it, like this podcast here, you just change the narrative more and more to be you're the victim and everybody else around you is bad and you're this altruistic figure. You are a scum fuck parasite.
Very, very dysfunctional family. So it's like, let's lay it all out and let's work through it, because ultimately I know that we love each other. That's an undeniable fact. We're just not working through the other stuff that is muddying up the waters.
And that's a fair perspective. But again, when Trisha gets mad, she says Ethan's a scumbag piece of shit and I never liked him. And Ethan immediately it's like, I love Trisha. Ethan was way too nice to her. Ethan was like, I love Trisha. She's such a good person. I don't know how he says that. And then goes on to talk about how like she's a horrible fucking dog shit asshole. To the point where he was like, yeah, she tried to ruin my life. I genuinely believe that.
So like my thing is to not ever run away, which is maybe a very unhealthy pattern for me because I stick around in possibly like make bad relationships for way long.
Yeah.
But that's
mean. Like, yeah, like Trisha and Moses.
Everything I talk about is like, why is my threshold so high? Like, why do I want to always make it
Dig
work?
in.
Yeah, like I'm like, come on,
That's just like a normal human thing to make things work if they can still work. I don't understand.
we got this, we can do this.
Oh.
And I think that ultimately I do that if I feel like there is this like foundation of like love there.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
But there's no foundation of love for Trisha. There's just a foundation of like, how much can I leech out of this situation?
if that you know, it speaks to you guys, but like, and then again, I don't know you and Ethan in that way.
Yeah.
But when I look at you guys together and that dynamic, like there is that like tangible love. Like I see it, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's why
No,
also too
I
it
don't
was
see-
like so
you're-
explosive because it's always
Have
people
you guys
around me
ever
that
watched
get it the worst. Like I've
anything?
never
Any
like
podcasts?
I don't just go off on people I don't know, you know. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's like I keep that in, but I feel like it is the people closest to me. Like me and Moses had a really big one last year that like that's when I was like, okay, I really do need to get on medication because I have like because I do have something wrong with me. I'm borderline and I'm schizophrenic, and so I just got on medication for that, and like I feel like it's helped a lot. But the problem is I got put on the medication at the end of May, and this was June 8th. So I think like during the transition time, like it takes like
It doesn't make any sense. She constantly talks about how she's going back on her meds or she's off her meds. So I hate the excuses like, oh, because now she's like, oh, well, I have a mental health problem. That's my excuse. No, it's not. You've known you've had something. You lie about the things that you have. Like, we know that you probably shop around for doctors to get particular diagnoses. But like, you're constantly saying you probably have BPD for sure. But you're constantly saying that you have something and that you're on medication. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I'm off my medication. And you could see the drastic difference in her perspective and her attitude on Frenemies episodes from week to week. She's a totally different person a lot of the times. She doesn't stick to her meds. And so like, this isn't just an instance of like, oh, she was on her meds and then she fucked up. This is an instance where she's not taking her meds the way that she's supposed to and having blow-ups and then causing a problem. And it's not everybody else's responsibility to be your fucking like, they're not your fucking one-on-one DSP like worker. You need to have some fucking like personal responsibility. Make sure you take your medication religiously, which you're just not doing. Okay, you're just not doing it. You said it on your fucking podcast before. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. And then the craziest thing is, it's not like the people that I know and people who've commented on these are like, you know, I have like a particular mental issue where I'm on medication. Sometimes I blow up on the spot but then like a day later or less than that, I go, wow, I really fucked up. And they understand that they fucked up. It was just an episode. If that's what Trisha did, that would have been fine. But she doesn't do that. She doesn't have blow ups and go like, okay, I overreacted after cooling down. She has blow ups and then she believes she's correct. This goes beyond a mental health issue. This goes to a point where she is a fundamentally entitled dickhead. That's really what it comes down to, right? Like, that's why you can't just use it as an excuse. People with mental issues, they're still good people, or they can be. And that's why after they have their like blow up, they go, oh shit, I fucked up. Trisha doesn't do that because not only does she have like some kind of mental issue, which there's no problem with, she's an asshole on top of it. So she justifies her being an asshole with having some kind of like a mental issue, like BPD. That's all it is. To her, to most people who have like something like BPD, it's like, okay, this is a struggle in life I need to overcome. To Trisha, it's another excuse to be a fucking asshole. That's the difference between Trisha and other people. And she makes people in like this community, like the BPD community, look bad. Because she's not trying at all. She's using it as an excuse.
4 to 6 weeks for medication. I probably like shouldn't have been on the podcast because I think it was just like I felt like you were saying, I felt like I was trying to disengage because that's what they teach you in, like in borderline. Yeah, they're like, and the same thing with Moses because it's like for me, I just get angrier and angrier, which is like not good. But when I sleep on something, I'm like, oh no, what did I do? You know, I felt so that's where the doubling down then.
But then you left and then you slept on it and then you decided to leave.
Came in, but yeah, I feel like
because you're a child that didn't realize people didn't want to be around you when you're mean to them. Like, you're an idiot.
I don't know. I feel like it's just too far gone. Like,
you never know.
I think that like really,
yeah, because she pushed it.
What other people think of you or feel about you.
Yes, you do.
In the public eye that you're in.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Like, yes, there are some times where you'll get dogpiled, but Trisha is the last person that has any right to say that she gets dogpiled. She is objectively worse than the majority of people who get canceled, and then she is able to maintain her fucking platform. And it's like she gets more chances than anybody else. It's insane.
So it's really like just being true to yourself, learning your own lessons, being your best self, and like not being mad at yourself for things you did, and just like
you should be. That's the problem. You should be mad at yourself and work through them.
Having an open heart.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's where I'm at too, because I would spiral before, and I think a lot of it is I'm codependent on Moses, and I have Moses. I think if I was like single, I'd be like spiraling so much, because that's what I used to do all the time. So the internet knows me as being like crazy or whatever. But I feel like now it's like, or even being here, you know, just being around like people outside of the internet, because his fans are so hardcore, and they're like F you and all this like crazy stuff. So it's like,
I love it. It's like her fans, like the narrative is that her fans are harassing her. I'm not a fan of H3. Most people, like, I don't, like, he probably has hardcore fans, but I honestly feel like his hardcore fans are gone. Like his hardcore fans were like more of the people who really enjoyed his older content. So now he has fans, he has good fans, people who like him a lot. But it's not like there's just like he's weaponizing his hardcore fans to go after Trisha like she's trying to make it seem like. She's just a bad person and people are identifying that she's a bad person.
Oh my god! But then like being here and you're like, we don't care. What you know, like the real like other people, like it's really between me and Ethan, and then obviously people, Frenemies fans are upset or whatever. But I don't know.
It's between me and Ethan. That's why she brought it to the public eye because she wanted people. She thought she was right, and she thought that people would agree with her. So she brought it into the public eye. For what? So that she would be like, yeah, see, I'm right, but it didn't work out for her, and then she's getting hate. Now she's blaming it on people's fans because she doesn't take accountability for herself. She doesn't even believe that she's in the wrong. Still to this fucking day, this is just proof of that.
When you get in the real world, you're like, okay, it's not as serious as it feels. And I can't change what I did. I did an apology. He didn't accept it. And that's
You didn't make it a genuine. Your apology included like 13 advertisement reels, a plug of your OnlyFans, and like really shitty language. It wasn't a real apology.
totally fine, but it's like there's nothing more I can do. I can't go back in time.
That's almost better though, because you did it for yourself, and it wasn't like, I really have been trying in my life to not do things to get an outcome from something, you know, and just to really do it like from me outward, and then whatever happens, happens.
That's so, but that, you know what, I said that in my apology too, because I was like, you know, maybe this is kind of selfish that I want to do this for me because I feel really bad about it, and then people were like, wow, the apology wasn't even for Ethan, like you're just doing it for selfish reasons, and I was like, but in a way, like that is what I had to take from it because he didn't want to accept it, and again, it's fine, but it's like I had to release it for me because I felt so much guilt for how I handled it.
Like no matter what you do, you're always you're at that level where there's always going to be people who are upset about what you did, and you know what, like. The commenters are like 0.5% of the actual people who are watching, and I think Halila
my
told
mom.
Yeah, I love
my mom. While she's really upset about the breakup, she's like, I love both of them.
Aww.
She's not siding with
Because your mom probably doesn't like look into the depth of what's going on. I don't know.
anyone.
I love that.
And those
There's no criticism on your mom, but like
are the true stands. I think.
Yeah, it's like the people who are just watching quietly. Like you said, like most people are watching quietly. They buy a couple tickets to the live show, they buy their merch, and they never voice their opinion. And I feel like
are most people just fucking morons to this girl? Like what is the narrative? They're just saying like, yeah, you know, you're getting hate, but most people don't agree with it. Most people are impartial. No, I disagree. I think most people. This is active in her comments. You can see the dislike ratios on her videos, like ratios on like Ethan's videos. That like most people are in agreement with Trisha. With Ethan. And now you're just giving her another reason to feel empowered and to take less accountability and responsibility for her shitty behavior. You guys suck. This podcast is dog shit.
like we have to remember that's the majority of who we're like here to entertain.
And they're also, you have no clue. Like so many times, like if I've like gotten triggered by a comment that someone made, if I go back at them, they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm a big fan. It's like, so I'm really trying to like release my judgment, even on people that are like, you're a fat whore. Like I'm just like, I don't know what your day is, but it's like, cause if I'm judging them and pissed, like now I'm attaching and I'm like letting them have my energy.
And the amount of times Annie and I have been called refrigerator bodies.
And it like is right in a weird way. I was like,
wait, what's a refrigerator body?
It's like a square, a rectangle. I was like,
God. But that's what I'm saying. No matter what people always hate, because you guys are like model-esque, beautiful, like skinny, and I'm just like, dang, like, and then they get me, they call me like little porky pig and stuff like that. So they're just not happy. Refrigerator, porky, whatever.
I mean,
what are your thoughts
like
on
Miss Piggy, bitch? At least like I'm high.
I love Miss Piggy. Yeah, I take that as a compliment all day long.
What are your thoughts on? I know that people are tying it to the pizza curse, but is there really something to having pizza
and him dressing as Uncle Fester?
Yeah.
Did you guys have pizza both times? Okay, so we're obviously friends, but I think our biggest disagreement between the three of us was right after pizza.
Whether we like Domino's or Papa John's.
Here we like.
Well, maybe it's all like how terrible of food it is. It might put you in a bad mood. I mean, like I kind of doubt it, but like there's an argument to probably be made if you really wanted to look into it that just in general, fast food and like the preservatives they put in food makes you feel shittier, even if you enjoy eating it. And so, like, yeah, you might get more irritable after it. So it could be true. Sure, but okay.
Domino's.
Yeah, isn't
that true? I think there's something to the pizza curse.
Oh, that's so weird. Well, that's so weird because I've been eating Domino's like my entire life. Like I eat it like 3 times a week. So I don't know. Maybe it's like eating it with people or something. But I've always eaten Domino's.
Maybe you don't have all these personality disorders you just said, and maybe it's Domino's.
I can't eat a
Trish,
card.
can I ask you about schizophrenia?
Yeah.
What are to what degree do you have like auditory hallucinations?
Both. I have auditory and visual. Yeah.
Do you have smell?
No.
And do they come in like when you're off the meds? Is it something that's like chronic that you get every day, or do you have bigger like episodes?
It was getting to be every day, which is why I like sought help, because I thought I got diagnosed with borderline in 2019. I was in like 3 mental hospitals that year, so I was like, oh, I'm just borderline, that's it. Like I didn't think there was anything more. And then I started like I started hearing things in my head. Like it would start off like bells and whistles and stuff like that. And I actually like applied for this like reality show. It was like right before quarantine hit, and we were taking out this thing. I was like, do you see like shapes that aren't like, you know, do you see like animals that aren't there? So I would always see like animals. I would see shapes. I would see all that stuff like that were like not there. And I was thinking like, and I was doing a lot of Xanax. So I thought at the time it was like a Xanax thing. So my doctor's like, no, just get off Xanax. Like, you know, my therapist was like, get off Xanax. You're fine. You're not schizophrenic. All this stuff like that. But when it started to be voices, and it was like voices with people that were next to me, like my sister, I'd be like, oh no, that's not it. And she goes, what are you? I didn't say anything. You know, so I was like having conversations. That's hearing her have the conversations. Yeah.
It's weird that this is the first time she's ever expressed this, but she's constantly talking about her shit. Maybe I'm just uneducated. I just feel like, I don't know.
And so they used to be really dark voices, and then the darkness kind of went away. It was really like, and people would say, well, what did Ethan actually was like, oh, those are intrusive thoughts, but they were more than like intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
It was like literally someone telling
There's
me.
a very big line between intrusive thoughts and actually like
there's a
auditory
person,
hallucinations.
yeah. To me, there was a person like next to me. You know, I would hear like family members next to me being like, oh, you know,
If it was anybody else, I would be like, oh, okay, I believe you. But just from Trisha, I just don't believe it. She's never talked about it. She's open about everything. She constantly talks about everything. But she doesn't talk about this at all. I just feel like doesn't happen. I just feel like it's not true. Maybe I'm wrong, but Trisha's not somebody that's like trustworthy enough to actually take her seriously.
if you just like, there's a window, like I didn't go upstairs for our house for the first month. Like, you know, there's a window, you should just jump out of it. And then like, you know, you'll see your grandma, you'll see all these things. Like it was very like comforting voices. And I never was suicidal. I never heard voices. When I was a kid, I did. And I was taken for diagnosis, and it wasn't schizophrenia. They gave me bipolar medication. I was really young. It was like, I was on lithium a couple times. But yeah, and it was weird. They kind of subsided. I don't know if it's because like I was doing a bunch of drugs for most of my life here in Hollywood. I don't know what it was, but they would subside. And then I don't know, like last year it started to
like she said, oh, I have the ID. Remember, she always says that she has something. Like, why would people even believe her?
bad. And then
why would people even have her on a podcast? Well, probably because it pulls views.
this year got really bad. And then they went from like dark voices when I started going. There's one thing called cognitive group therapy.
I'm sorry,
I've been
I
doing.
interrupted.
And it's like other.
No, it's okay.
But other than like they started like helping me, and then I was starting to hear like more positive voices, but it was more just like every day. Like I thought,
oh, I know what's happening.
He wasn't,
sorry,
you know, but he was sitting right there.
Looking at their
and then
channel.
The visual stuff I see a
on.
lot, and that's more daytime, like in the sun and stuff like that. Like I see a lot of animals, I see a lot of shapes that weren't there, and I still see shapes, and those are like a whole new thing. And I didn't know that was like a thing, but I see like squares and triangles that appear and bells and
Do
stuff
you
like
see
that.
refrigerators in front of you?
I don't see refrigerators.
Does Moses ever say I love you?
Yeah, no, she's very uncomfortably open about things, and she would have mentioned this before. I agree. Yeah.
And they're like, I'm hearing things. It must be.
I mean, honestly, and what it's, I know, right? I wish I could control like what I hear from people, because it's always just random stuff too. It's never. But yeah, the medication helps so much, like with it. Because
do you mind if I ask what you're on?
It's called like Klepter.
I've been called one of those before.
It's something like I don't know how to say it. Yeah,
It's really, really difficult.
Yeah, it's
And scary.
It's so scary. It's like really scary.
So either she just doesn't know how to pronounce things, which is likely, or she just doesn't know what the medication's called because she doesn't have this issue.
Because and a lot of people are like, you don't just develop, because you know people on the internet have like all this like
They're so
expertise.
fucking annoying.
Yeah, they're like, you don't just develop it. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Like I just started hearing voices like
Love and light, love and light,
Right.
love and light, cunt, love and light.
I know, it's like so. But I went to 2 different psychiatrists. Like I went to 2 before getting on medication. I don't like being on medication. I've never I've been on medication improperly, and I got off it right away, because those are the only times I've ever been like suicide.
I mean, that makes sense. She just always comes off of her medication constantly. This seems to be the pattern, because she always talks about how she's on meds, she's off meds, she's on meds. What it seems to be the pattern is she goes on meds, she doesn't like the way that she feels, so she gets off of it, which just exacerbates her problem. Instead of talking to her therapist about merging with like another medication to subdue another side effect. That's generally how these types of things work, and that's why she's such a fucking wrecking ball on everybody around her.
Suicidal thoughts were on medication. I was like, never liked it.
But that's the one thing they don't tell people that are newly on meds, is that the first month that you're on it is the window of time that you should be watched the most. Because if you have
I feel like they do tell people that.
Suicidal ideation, let's say for instance you're down into pits. This is coming from me because I've been in and out of like hospitals on 5150s and whatnot.
Oh, I didn't know.
And so when I had suicidal ideation, it was never when I was the most depressed that I ever tried to hurt myself. It was when I finally got on meds. And so the suicidal ideation was still there, but now I had the energy to execute.
Yes.
Yeah, that's actually like a big thing. That's actually, I talked about that a while ago on TikTok. People didn't really listen to me. But yeah, like what happens is if you're super depressed, one of the reasons you don't kill yourself is because you don't have the energy to do it. Then you start going on meds and you get better, but you're not a switch. It wasn't like, I'm better now. It's like you get better, you have more energy, and then like you have a almost like a higher inclination of like actually taking your own life, honestly. And wrapping this into like some people who transition, LGBTQ people, oftentimes one of the biggest criticisms of trans people is that like, oh well, the suicide rate is just as high after transitions. Like that makes sense because these people are starting to feel better, but they're not at their peak. because they just started feeling better. And yeah, like that makes sense as to why suicidal thoughts and tendencies would go up, because they have more energy. They're less depressed, but they're still depressed, right? Instead of being at a 10 out of 10 for depression, you're at like an 8 out of 10. You have a little bit more energy and be like, okay, let me take my own fucking life. And it's actually a very unfortunate thing.
So now I had the energy to actually carry out what my plan versus just being like this sad vegetable in bed. And so that first month is really like what like for anybody that's like watching, like watch your family members, watch your kids, watch your loved ones when they're first getting on meds. It doesn't just, it's all better, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. When you went to the hospitals, did you find that they helped you? Because I felt like mine made me like worse. Like they forced medication on me that I shouldn't have taken.
You just said you don't like medication. And then it seems like you have a trend of not being on meds for a long time. So like we're literally in a conversation about that first month being the most important month, but you don't even go on meds for a month, it seems. So like your perspective on it seems rather warped.
Found some really great friends there.
Yeah.
So
The guy you fucked?
Yeah, I know. Were they real?
But the third place I went to in Torrance, and I was there for about 3 weeks. I didn't know it at that time. I didn't equate it to like bad behavior on his part at that time, but I eventually dated one of the counselors there. And he asked for my number the day that he was helping me pack.
You're like, my number is 16. Yeah. I don't know. It's my mom's phone.
And he was a dad. Like he claimed to be a single dad, but now I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, maybe
Well,
he's
it's
a
always
married
those
man.
people that are dealing with at-risk teens. I don't want to
know.
get them molested, Belle. Molested.
Well, it's not just a teenager thing. That's really fucked up, though. If he was an adult and she was 16, that's disgusting. That guy deserves to be in the ground. But what I would say, though, is that like just being in that position where you're helping somebody with a mental issue is a position of power that like makes it so you should not be asking anybody out for like a date in any capacity at all. It's just fucking disgusting on both those fronts.
I'll get for you.
Oh my god! I don't believe in mental. When I was in my mental hospital, I went to Alhambra.
Which one? BHC?
Huh?
BHC.
Is that
in
what it's called?
Alhambra,
Oh,
yes.
yeah. Have you been?
Yes, twice.
Really? Yes.
Esther, are you having FOMO? There's still time, Esther. Don't worry.
It was just a long hallway, just one long hallway,
Yes,
and it was
with the
like
rooms on the side on each side.
Yeah, and then there was like the room where you color at that corner.
Yes.
And then you had to go across. Like your level 2 was you had to go out to dinner across the way to like the dining
You
hall.
have to go out.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
imagine
I
being
got,
a
like-
waitress at that place. Like, ooh. Like, these are not good tippers.
I wonder how you paid. I guess my family came and visited me because they had visiting hours like 6 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
They could
Yeah,
come
and they always
visit.
say they had like your contraband. You weren't allowed to like hold anything in your possession that you could, not even like safety pins or
Did they
anything.
check
Laces.
inside you?
They check
I
everything.
bet that one did.
Because everyone is there.
No, they don't go in your vagina.
No, they don't.
No, but they have guys check on you like in the middle of the night when they do their checks. Like it's a guy. Ours was a guy that like did a flashlight in there to like, and I'm like, oh, like, and you're like this little sheet, whatever. And then the ED unit's like connected to it. So like the people who were going through like their eating disorders, they were like on the other side.
I thought
of
it was erectile dysfunction. I was like, they get a area?
Their own section?
I was like, that's crazy.
Oh my god, no, it was like, and it would, it was so uncomfortable because like you could go across the way to the dining hall, but if you didn't do that, you had to eat there, and like the people with the ED would be there too. So it was like so uncomfortable.
wow.
Well, that was
Yeah.
what was interesting is that we did have a lot of girls with eating disorders there, and we were just all mixed in together, and we would have group therapy together. So it was like a very like I learned a lot about all the other different things that people were going through, and so for that reason,
I'm out.
it was a good experience. Like it was more like a learning experience. 'Cause
Well,
I
you're
was-
very empathetic. Did you think you like took on their eating disorders a little bit?
No, my mom is a fucking bodybuilder. Of course, I was meant
was
to have an
sad.
eating
Yeah.
disorder, but that wasn't my main issue. My main issue was like a whole lot of like obviously like childhood like sexual trauma and stuff like that. So
mine too. Oh, yeah,
Can I ask you about borderline? Because I feel like that's a really big one that you hear a lot about, but I've never heard
From
anyone.
doctors? From my own therapist?
I've never heard anyone say like I was diagnosed with borderline.
There's a ton on TikTok now. I feel like I'm on BPD TikTok. Yeah, there's a lot. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's really interesting that there's so many people that have like a particular disorder now that it's become like a public thing. I really do feel like people are like overly identifying with some things just because they're out in the public, and now it's almost like we should definitely all like it's incredible how many people identify with having like some kind of a, I guess you'd say, mental disorder now that TikTok is a big thing. Like what a convenience. It's almost like some people, not all people, are just saying that they have a thing because it's easy to look up the symptoms, self-diagnose, and it's a cultural taboo to not press people on having like, oh, why, what do you mean you have this disorder? What makes you say that? And we shouldn't, because people should be able to have access to privacy, but it allows a lot of people, especially younger people, be like, yeah, I have this. Trisha's an example of that because she says she has literally everything, every like issue that's trendy, she says that she has. like dissociative identity disorder. When that was trendy, she's like, oh, I have that.
Because like it became somewhat like trendy now, this borderline, and so but then when you like exhibit borderline behaviors, people are like, oh, like too much, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
which
really
is
serious.
Yeah, it is, because there's like episodes, and you know, you there, it's just always manic high, manic lows. I mean, it is what it is, and you gotta just control it. And with BPT, there's no medication for it, so it's like I go to DBT classes, which is like group therapy classes. So I'm in 2 group therapies now, and so
it's expensive, right? Isn't it? Like it's it's something you have to put a lot of.
It's so expensive. And
what's expensive?
The therapy,
the group
my
therapy,
boyfriend was,
and if you're in the group therapy, you have to be in individual therapy. Yeah, so you have to be in both at the same time, like simultaneously, and it's like it's super expensive. Yeah, and it's a lot of work, and obviously it doesn't happen overnight. So like when people are like, oh, I thought she was getting better, then it's like I have gotten so much better. This last blow up compared to the one in December, like that, it was better if people see it or whatever, but I've gotten better. It's just really trying to regulate your emotions, which is like really hard for me to do, and I like want to snap back. I'm so impulsive and I'm so reactionary, so which is how I ended up in the hospital too. Like the Alhambra, I was just like, that was the one where I was forced to go. I was at Cedars-Sinai and they forced me because I was just so reactionary. You know what I mean? Like that's when, we'll just say it, like Jason and David came into the hospital and I just like lost my shit. I took off my clothes. I ran away.
Wait, so she said that there's no like treatment for BPD? There's no medication for it? Yes, there are. What the fuck are you talking about? Like there absolutely is medication to treat BPD. Medication may also be used to treat your symptoms since depression and anxiety can be a big part of BPD. Antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications can help you. What is she talking about? What the fuck? Like, what the fuck? Dude, what?
I was trying to find a pen to like stab myself, and like it was crazy. It was like so intense. So I then they forced me to go there. But it's just like these reactionary things that are just get me in trouble, which is what happened on the podcast. And yeah, it's no fun. And Borderlands, a lot.
When they came to see you, was it for a fucking vlog though?
No.
I was gonna say, I think I would be fucking pissed too.
I know. Well, it felt that way though because
you felt like exploited. Maybe.
Yeah, because Jason had just broken up with me that day, and David was ignoring me because I made a video about him. Like, so I was exiled from the group already. So this was like 5 days after I was exiled. So whatever, that's so dramatic. But yeah, they came, and my makeup artist was the one that like called 911 and went to the hospital with me. And then he told Jason like I was back in the middle of the hallway, and then I saw David come back, and I lost my shit because I was like, no, you're the reason. Like all this, I was so pissed. I was like, why are you here? And I never heard from him since, which is why, I mean, he's so fake, because it's like he never was like after like, are you okay? Because Jason came to visit me at the mental hospital, like, you know, people knew. And didn't even,
wait, did she just say that David showed up and then she yelled at him to leave and he never showed up again? That sounds like that's the reason why. I'm so confused. I don't even like David Dobrik. I'm thinking that's what she's talking about, maybe. But she's like, yeah, I yelled at him to leave and then he never came back. Wow. Who would have thought? Well, okay.
like check on me. I was like, okay, fake friends, whatever.
Yeah.
To even be like, I'm not cool with you, but like, are you okay? You know, so
Yeah.
like,
I'm just so confused.
It's fine. I mean, it is what it is. It happens
We're
so, like,
learning new
long
things every day.
ago, but yeah, the Alhambra one was like crazy. I met this boxer. She's open about it, so I feel like I can. But her name was Mia St. John, and her son.
I know her.
You do?
I know of her. Yeah.
Yeah, her son. Well, and her her first husband. Like they both committed suicide, and her son did it in a mental hospital.
God.
Yeah, and so that's why she was in there, and she was like saying
poor
like,
him.
and then her husband was a famous soap opera actor who killed himself too, and she talks about it, and I've seen her on stuff, and I've tried to connect with her since getting out of there, but she was in there like sharing her story, and I was like you, where I like listen to other people's stories, and you're just like whoa, and then there's some people in there who are in there for life because they just don't have anywhere else to go, and
Yeah.
it was crazy. I tried to get out there as soon as I could, but
This is where it gets a little bit tricky and ties into the whole Britney Spears thing, is that like, because I learned a lot about conservatorship, and you know, from my understanding of it, it doesn't look as like life, like as thieving as Britney Spears' situation is. Like conservatorship is meant to protect like both like the family and the person who's like ill, right?
Yeah.
And that shit right there, when I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, that girl is in an actual prison.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, Trish, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being Frenemies is absolutely over.
Look at her. Look at her.
So she's getting this for her mother. This is
texted me.
texted
This is my mom.
This is her mom.
Okay, I'm gonna go for 0 to 10. 0 being it absolutely over, and 10 being fully back on. The family's happy. We're doing it. Where are you today?
today,
Just you, not even like just regardless of what Ethan's feelings are. Like, how do
Right.
you feel today?
I think
She would go back immediately. She tested the idea on Twitter. People are like, you should get back together. She's like, yeah, we should. But Ethan doesn't want to do it.
if you asked me this like yesterday, I would have said like 10. I'm ready to come back.
The only reason that she's not on a 10, I want to come back, is because Ethan has made it clear that he doesn't want to do anything with her.
But today it's a 0.5 because after he like the family hates Trish, I was like, this motherfucker. Like I was like, that is not true. So I think that really set me back. Like
I don't know that he ever said the family hates Trish ever. He probably said that the family like is uncomfortable because they're a very traditional conservative family, and Trisha does OnlyFans with her mom recording her and her sister playing in a mud bath, and I feel like that's a bit jarring to somebody who has more traditional values, especially family values.
Could you though look at it like this, like, and I could be completely wrong. Could you look at it knowing that the family doesn't hate you? Could you look at it like those are his tools he's using to try to trigger you?
Dude, you're a fucking bitch. I feel like it's so terrible to not have any education on the situation going on and then just give Trisha, a historical fucking manipulative dumb moron, more tools to be a manipulative dumb moron. Like, it's so shitty. Like, now you're just trying to create this narrative that, like, Ethan's like, and again, I honestly am not even a particular fan of Ethan. But, like, holy shit. Like, this is insane. Why, what is wrong with you? I just think it's just so shitty, bro. Jesus Christ.
And not be triggered by it?
Just trigger me and not be triggered.
Oh my God, I never thought of that. Now I'm going to start using that in the next video I make about Ethan.
Could you see, like, no, could you see, like, if you know, like, you have a great relationship with the family, right?
Mm-hmm.
That seems like an overstatement. I come from a more conservative family. I know that they wouldn't like somebody like Trish. So to say that she's an amazing relationship, most conservative type families, when they see something that they don't particularly care for, they're like they'll treat you with respect, but they just won't want to associate themselves with you. Like, that's kind of a very traditional conservative kind of a way to move, or at least in my experience. So, like, they're not going to be like, I fucking hate Trisha, don't invite her. Or they're going to be like, yeah, Trisha can come over, but we're just going to, like, watch what we say around her because we don't really particularly care for her. So, like, this idea that Ethan said that they hate her is objectively false. There's absolutely no way he ever said that. And this idea that they love her is absolutely untrue as well. There's no way. Like, they probably are just like, she's just like a fucking, you know, she's just like the pet dog that just pisses and shits everywhere. Just, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you trust that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So him saying that to you is a dig at you, but it's not the truth.
For sure,
From
for
your-
sure.
right.
It's not the truth. That's why he never said it.
Coming from a place of hurt.
And
or,
he,
Yeah,
can you
I
see
can't
that
speak for
as
him,
his,
though.
Right.
as like, could you see that as that's his attempt to get you to be triggered? And then is there a way for you to just like,
Reflect it off.
Yeah, like let it go.
like shine the light on
Look at how happy
If I need
Trisha
a number
is.
to go
She's getting like all this ammunition to use against Ethan.
Up a bit. From my mom.
Right. I mean, you know, I'll just say, I don't know if I should say this, but it's fine, whatever. So he actually asked me to come do like one final episode on Monday, right? Like,
No, we found out that wasn't true.
but I don't. Just be like between us, because after that, I was like, I don't really trust it.
Yeah.
Because I saw.
We found out that was untrue because he even said, yeah, we're not doing it. And she's like, well, I showed up anyway. She admitted that. What are you talking about, bro? What the fuck's happening? Because it doesn't make any sense. Just from like not even knowing that, think about it. Hey, let's do one final episode of Frenemies so that we can promote the merch. She didn't have the merch. She never had the merch. Even in her video talking about that, she's like, yeah, I still don't have merch. So if the episode was about merch, why would they have done it before the merch came in? Logically, none of this makes any sense. There's no way he said, like, let's definitely do an episode. He was probably like, yeah, we can come over, we could talk. And then she came over and she's like, oh, this is an episode of Frenemies. And then, like, he was like, I guess we'll film it maybe. Just because to fucking support your absolute fucking delusion. And then they did that. And he's like, yeah, I'm not going to release it because I had no intention to ever release this in the first place. And then she's like, well, he apologized for things. So he's wrong. And he's a manipulative asshole who won't release it because he's wrong. It's just more. You notice how, like, when anytime Ethan gives her like another chance, even not even like a frenemies chance, just like a chance in life, she takes it and she weaponizes it against him. It's disgusting.
I saw him do this like interview with like a conservative person, like this debater. Did you see that?
The, like prank thing.
Yeah, Steven Crowder, and then he like did a switch. He kind of like ambushed him and switched him with like someone to debate him, and it was like. It was a little tricky, and he hasn't told me details. And because he did that, and because he said, I do not accept Trisha's apology, I think it's like, it almost feels like a setup where he may be trying to ambush me. That's how I feel.
What? That doesn't even make sense. Bro, this is so stupid. What? Listen, I didn't like the way that Ethan handled the Crowder situation. I think that what he had said, where he said, like, you should just basically trust the government blindly. I didn't particularly care for that, especially since the CDC drastically downplayed the coronavirus at the beginning of the pandemic. So I understand the mistrust of people. And they did it for more masks and stuff. But still, when you lie to the American people, you lie to the public, it makes them apprehensive about trusting you. He accepted this debate. And then he weaseled out of it by throwing Sam Cedar. I thought it was like a shitty play. If you're going to accept the debate, especially if you're like, hey, no seedy bullshit, it's a little shitty if you don't do that. So I didn't like that he did that. I also think that Crowder, I don't know. I think Crowder's a fucking dickhead asshole. So whatever. But like this idea that he was gonna like when has Ethan ever done that? You know what I mean? Like to make this argument that he might have. Who was he gonna have Sam Cedar come in on you too? Like who was he gonna ambush you with? He gave you constant benefits of the doubt. It doesn't make any sense. That's bullshit. It's just more ammunition for her to lie and seem justified. Trisha is really a shitty person. Even now, after the situation has happened, she's still trying to ruin Ethan's life.
I really
Right
trust
now.
that instinct.
Right.
That sounds,
So
yeah, like it's.
originally I said yes. I wanted to come on because he has merch made, and I was like, I'll help you.
Is
but
there a way for you to?
But there was no merch there, so obviously this has never happened.
Control over that more. Like, can you have it on your terms? Like, are you able to have him come to you? And like, could you have a crew filming it? instead
Or
of
like,
his
is there
crew?
some?
Well, she couldn't because she's just completely so lazy and stupid that she would never do it. She had her own podcast and she bought microphones that she never even hooked up. So they were using like the fucking computer microphone off the laptop. The audio was horrible. She doesn't even have like the basic abilities to do anything.
Contract.
I think once I saw it, because this week he had his parents on and they were just like trashing me. His dad said something about my weight. His mom said I was toxic.
You look so cute, by the way. Don't.
Maybe he did. I don't know. I don't really care about the weight thing. You are toxic. Who cares? You are also fat. So whatever. Me too. I don't really know what he said. I have no inclination to believe you because you're an unbelievable person.
No,
Thank
you're
you.
so
Fucking
cute.
adorable.
Like, you're like the first person where I'm like starstruck in person. Like you're so pretty.
I know. I'm like, I want the hair. I'm gonna like really.
Trisha outwardly is not an unattractive person. She inwardly is a horrible dog shit bitch though. Like she's a really shitty person on the inside. I feel like that's what we have to understand. Like that's where her Trisha physically is somebody that like I would look and go like, oh, like that's my type. But she's so unattractive to me because of how disgustingly like manipulative she is. That's it. That's the end of the sentence. It's gross. She's a bad person. That's just what it comes down to. And I feel like a lot of people feel that way. The only people that are attracted to her are the people who subscribe to her OnlyFans, and those are disgusting men who sub to her OnlyFans simply because she literally puts toilet paper in her asshole and then puts it up on her fucking Twitter. And people are like, disgusting men are like, wow, that's hot. That's how gross some men are. That's the only people that like Trisha are gross men. And Moses, who probably feels trapped. But like, has such like a fucking like hates his family so much that he wants to prove them wrong by staying with her. That's how I look at it. That's my speculation.
I got glam for you guys. I don't look like this most of the time.
It
I'm
looks
usually like
so
short
good,
hair.
though.
I got glam.
We glammed for you too. Believe it or not, this is as glam as
I
it's gonna
actually
get.
did glam.
So do you want? If you give me $5, I'll do your makeup.
Fiverr. Are you a Fiverr
I'm on
employee?
Fiverr. Did you get my ex-boyfriend ones on Fiverr?
No, I saw your ex-boyfriend on TaskRabbit.
Oh, is there a fucking better revenge?
And I'm a very good friend for telling you.
Yeah, that is literally the funniest.
But
thing
I'm
ever.
just gonna go ahead and say, like, I cannot live without TaskRabbit. So
Really?
kudos to him and all the side hustlers
Is this
there.
a- is this a-
Oh, true. Yeah, no,
Yes.
we don't. Dave is so not a man. He can't even hang posters on our wall.
Is
we
this
have,
like
we
a
have, like
sub
a hot guy
for
on TaskRabbit who comes
TaskRabbit?
and does everything for us.
Oh,
Is
it's
it-
like a handy?
Yeah,
it's
it's a
like
handyman. It's
whatever
an
you
app
need.
for a hand. It's like an Uber for handyman. I'm gonna call it. We're gonna take a banana break on the
Yes.
show, Trish. We have this thing called when the feelings are high.
Wow, banana break sounds really boring. Okay, so I don't know what I expected, but it was really just another outlet, another platform for Trisha to use to try to be disparaging against Ethan. It's the only person who's ever truly given her a chance and truly been her friend. And what does she do? She runs through Ethan like a fucking wrecking ball, attempts to ruin his life over and over again, and constantly tries to lie and shift the narrative towards her favor because she is somebody that fundamentally just cannot take any responsibility for anything. She's a bad person. She's a bad person. I don't know why she's still platformed. I'm not even calling for her to get deplatformed, but like, Jesus Christ. Like somebody like, there's no way to communicate to her that she's a fucking bad person. There's just no way. And all these fucking other people on this podcast, like, God forbid you like did a little bit of research and like you watched like the show a little bit before talking on it. But like, I found the most disgusting part when that girl's like, do you think that like Ethan is lying about the relationship that you have with Moses' family to like drive a wedge, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're giving her ammunition. You're saying she's giving you information that's objectively false. And then you're like, that's gotta be true because you're so fucking reputable over like the 10 plus years you've been on this platform. And then you're giving her like, yeah, if that's since that, it must be true because I'm a fucking idiot that doesn't listen to reason or logic or do any like personal investigation or research. You're like, hey, well, do you think that Ethan's actually a manipulative person? Ethan's not a manipulative person. I think he's a little bit like social justice warrior-y, like he's a little bit of a beta, but he's not a manipulative person. I've never seen Ethan ever do anything that was ingenuine. Like, he seems like a genuine person, and I feel like I have a decent like hold on if people are or aren't genuine. And Trisha is not disingenuous. Even the Sam Cedar, it seemed ingenuine. Like, yeah, it was in that sense. But, like, I think that, like, in his perspective, he's like, Crowder is such a bad person that I want to get a nay-nay on him. I still think it's shitty, but, like, I don't see it, like, from this perspective of he's just trying to be duplicitous. Did I say that word right? Awesome for me. I think it's just from a perspective that he thinks that Steven Crowder is such a shitty person that he wants to, like, get one over on him. Hey everyone, if you liked that video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow my Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, Discord, and TikTok. All links are in the description. Also, check out my Patreon if you'd like to support me even more than you already do. Thank you so much, everyone. I love you all.